What up, world? I go by the name of Flyboy Carter 23, here to bring you my very first college football 25 video. I am new to this. I did think of starting up a channel years and years ago, around the time that the whole legal ramifications and things happened with NCAA 14. So it kind of put this on pause. And over the last few years, I had thought about doing content with older games, including NCAA 14, but it didn't happen. But here we are. I play the game enough. I play the game often. So why not give content creation a crack here on this YouTube thing? With that being said, just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I am a huge football fan. I do like the NFL, but I am huge on college and high school ball, mostly because of the atmosphere and environment and just the stakes that you feel week in and week out when these guys play, the heart and everything that you put into it and they put into it, I should say. I am recording this naturally. I will get more natural as time goes along. This isn't scripted, so if I'm repeating myself and things like that, I apologize. I promise I'll get better. I'm a natural speaker. But with that being said, I also apologize about my voice quality as I don't have the best setup yet. But maybe if I can get things going in the right direction and things like that here, I can upgrade. And any feedback and things like that that you guys have will be greatly appreciated as I'll be going off of what you guys think to help build the channel, because at the end of the day, if I don't have fans watching the channel, then what's the point, you know? In the background here, I do have some early gameplay. Just when I kind of first got my hands on the game, kind of my first crack at a Dynasty, I think I was using Ball State here. That'll be playing in the background, and then you'll start to see more of the current Dynasty stuff that I'm about to touch base on now. Before we get into that, I just want to lay the ground rules and how I will be playing my Dynasty and how I set it up and everything like that, as I feel like it is pretty unique to anything else that I've been seeing on YouTube and pretty different than anything else as far as college football content is concerned. So, first and foremost, I'll be playing on Heisman difficulty. All the other settings like the penalty settings and stuff like that will remain the same. I may change up sliders and things as I see fit, but for the most part, I've been playing on Heisman exactly how it is, and I think it runs pretty well. So I don't think it'll be too many changes in that department. But to let you guys know how I will be running my Dynasty, I guess the best way to describe it is it's sort of like a rebuild combined with a Dynasty, simply because I'm not going to play every game. I'm not going to always do every little aspect of Dynasty like you do see some guys do, nor am I going to skip a ton of aspects all the time like you see on these rebuilds. This is simply to save time, as you know, I am a family man, married with children, and I do work a full-time job. So I'm not going to have a ton of time just to play every game and like flesh out every little detail in the dynasties right now. And it's just some games and some things that I just don't want to play or feel like I need to play. So that's one reason. And another reason is I can crank out the content a little bit faster if I'm not playing and doing every little aspect in the dynasty every single week, as I plan to have multiple games in every episode. This isn't going to be a one episode per week type thing. It's going to be a lot more fast paced than you see a lot of these other YouTubers and stuff like that do. No knock to them, as a lot of those guys, which I'll shout out right now, have inspired me to even do this channel. You have Mr. Hurricane, Miles Dawkins. There's a new guy that I've been watching. I think his name's Old Man Trying. There's others, and even Flimlo Raps on his older channel. I think he was the very first YouTuber I watched that played NCAA, and he's kind of bringing it back now. So shout out to those guys. But I've used those guys as kind of a jumping off point to see where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and that's how I figured out what direction I wanted to take here. All right. So with that being said, when I do play, I'll be using 7-minute quarters again, just for a time thing. I really like 8 minutes, but due to time restraint, I'll be using 7-minute quarters. So when I do play full games, I can get them done in about an hour. Um, Other than that, the wear and tear system, revamp passing, I'm going to leave all of that. I really have enjoyed the revamp passing system as someone who likes to throw the ball a ton. The wear and tear does have its problems. We may toggle that on and off depending, but we're going to leave all of that the same. Now, in my actual dynasty, I will be using two coaches and doing two teams. And that's where that uniqueness starts here. Because as a fan, I love all types of offensive systems, all types of defensive schemes, and different stuff like that. You can't do that with one team. There's even been times I've used 3, 4 teams, but for the sake of this series, I'm going to do two teams, which has kind of been my basis and mainstay over the last few years, going back to playing, the older NCAA games. But we'll be using two different coaches. They'll be based off of me and my brother, and they will have two completely different offensive and defensive philosophies. I'll get into those teams in a moment, but we will do that. And I did think about starting off as coordinators, but I decided against it. There's already a lot going on. We'll go ahead and start as head coaches, and we'll move along accordingly. Another aspect of the dynasty that I want you guys to know about is that I will be accepting other jobs. And I think that's another unique aspect. I'm not going to just stick around at one school the entire time necessarily. It just depends, but I can move around. I can accept new contracts. Just because I start off at one school does it not mean I'm going to stay there. I like the realism of that where, if I get a better offer and things like that, then I'm going to take it. We will be starting with 1-star schools. That's kind of the basis here, or the rule. Start with a 0 or 1-star school and kind of build them up and then move on to bigger jobs as we go along. There's not any reason for me to build up, or there's not necessarily, or I don't necessarily, I should say, want to build up a 1-star school into a 5-star powerhouse. That's not really the goal here. Again, realism is the goal. I want to take the 1-star school, build them up into something solid, and get these offers from the bigger schools and move on and eventually win national titles. Not necessarily with the, Michigans and Oregons and Alabamas of the world, but if I can go to schools such as like Texas Tech or Oklahoma State or, Indiana, Virginia, and get them into the national title race or the playoff, that would be awesome. Another thing is that I will rebuild conferences and move teams around accordingly. For the sake of realism, I'm going to keep everything as it is right now. I'll let you know off top, I'm not a huge fan of the current landscape of conferences in college football. I hate that Oklahoma and Texas left the Big 12. The Big 12 is like what I grew up watching. So, I hated to see that move. I'm also not a huge fan of like the Arizonas and the UCFs coming into the Big 12 because it's just weird to me. I don't know. Call me an old head, whatever the case may be. I just, I'm not a huge fan of that change. But at some point, I will let you guys know I will be rebuilding the Pac-12 as I see fit, as I feel like it makes sense down the road, probably 4 or 5 seasons in. And another thing that I'll be doing that I think is very interesting is my second favorite conference of all time, which was the Big East Conference when they were playing football. Yes, back when one of my favorite teams of all time, Pat White, Steve Slayton at West Virginia, and them boys putting in work. And when you had really good Rutgers teams and South Florida, and guys like that. I will be eventually rebuilding that conference with the American Conference, and we'll have more than Power Four. We'll have a good solid Power Five or six when it's all said and done down the road there. Now that we have the basis of all of that here, we'll get into what teams I actually decided to go with here. So the first team that I decided on was the easiest. It was ECU, the Pirates, East Carolina. They are a team that I have really like. I've loved their color scheme in combination with the purple and gold for years. And I've been looking for an excuse to use this team, to build this team, you know, um, and it just hadn't really happened. But now, going with my 1 star rule, they are a 1 star school. They're a little bit of a better 1 star school. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on them. I've been wanting to do this team. Their uniforms are freaking amazing. They have some of the most amazing helmets in the game, and they will probably, just some foreshadowing here, be a major player in the rebuild of that Big East / American Conference down the road. So for them, it was a no-brainer for me. I was going to go ahead and pick East Carolina. Another thing to note here is the teams that I go with. Another rule is I don't like for them to have a really good record the year prior or anywhere. I guess going back a year to 2 years, I want them to be, as bad as possible. And East Carolina kind of fit that build. The other team I decided on was Jackson State, which you'll see on the screen now, or I'm sorry, Jacksonville State. I get those two confused. Shout out to Deion Sanders, though. But Jacksonville State was the other team I decided on as they're new to the power conferences here. Yes, they did have a pretty good record. I think they had won like 9 games or maybe more. I can't remember. But that was on the FCS level, so I don't count it. As you can see here, they're 75 overall, 75 offense, 76 defense. And it was out of a few teams, but the reason I settled on them is because of the type of offense I will run here. I will be running my other favorite offense, as I'll get into East Carolina's offense here in a moment, but it will be a triple option based offense. I Both of these playbooks that I'll be using are my own creation, and if you guys are interested in getting your hands on it, let me know. I'll put them up for download. But this particular offense is called the triple shoot offense. So the basis is to hit you in the mouth with different option looks, from the flex bone to the shotgun to the pistol, over and over and over, and then open up the passing game and start getting some passes down the field and stuff like that. Kind of like the run and shoot, but with an option basis. I've been a fan of the triple option ever since I first saw it. I think Georgia Tech would be the reason why I have become such a big fan of it. And I actually had the race come down to 3 teams for running this offense. It was Air Force, Georgia Southern, and Jville State. Army was also a team that I thought about at first, as I don't know, I love playing with the military schools. Call me weird or whatever, um, but Army was a 2 star. And they actually, another thing is they have a quarterback that's from around my area that starts from Abernathy. So, being a West Texas guy, Um, I thought that was cool, but they were a 2-star, so I didn't want to bend the rules like that. So I went to my next option, which was Air Force, but they were coming off a 9-win season. As bad as they are, I just, decided not to pull the trigger there. Maybe I'll regret it. I don't know. Maybe in the future, if these videos do well, I'll go back and I'll do a dynasty with them. Who knows? But Georgia Southern used to run a triple option offense. I believe Paul Johnson, he may have been a coach there. I'm not sure. But they used to run that, so I thought it would be interesting to kind of go back to their roots there. But ultimately, I decided on Jville State based off of the roster. You saw a little bit of that roster earlier. Right now, I'm starting to add my recruits and things like that. Um, but you saw a little bit of that roster. Um, I don't really know in real life because I have caught some Jville State games, but on here, Zion Turner is going to be the starting quarterback. And then you had the backup with, I believe, Tashawn or Trayshawn Smoot. Apologize about some of these names right now, so I'm trying to remember all the players. But they both have pretty good traits when it comes to running quarterbacks, which is exactly what I needed as a basis here. And that was pretty much my only basis for a lot of these lower level teams for this offense. If you had quarterbacks that could run and that maybe could develop, then I was going to consider you. We also had a decent crop of running backs here. Um, Again, off the top, I can't remember the names, but we have some pretty good backs. Um, Michael, the playmaker Petway at receiver. I know him for sure, as these are pre-recorded videos. Um, he's gonna make some plays. Just know that. But that was the basis of these of my choice for Jville State to run my triple shoot offense. And defensively, we'll be running a more custom defense. Sometimes I run the 4-3 multiple, but I have a custom defense as well with Jville State relying more on an old school type of defense. You'll see a lot of 52, a lot of 46, a lot of 44, just a lot of 4 and 5 man fronts on the defensive line. And you'll see a lot of big nickel as well. But we want to create the pressure with our defensive line in an old school way here. So that's the basis of the defense there. Um, and getting back to ECU, this offense is much different from the other offense, which I think makes this dynasty fun or will make it fun, as we are running a air raid type of offense. Something that I just loved. I fell in love with this back. One of the reasons why I love Texas Tech as a college football team. Yes, I am a Tech fan. Was because of Mike Leach. Rest in peace to the Pirate. This air raid offense just made me love watching that team. And as someone who grew up as a wide receiver in run heavy systems, I just appreciated actually seeing systems that were getting these guys the ball. Michael Crabtree, who's one of my favorite wide receivers of all time in a college game. Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, those guys really did their thing in this offense. Graham Harrell as the quarterback. And yes, the Patrick Mahomes came from a similar system. So I always thought that was an awesome offense and started drawing up plays of my own and stuff based off of just airing that thing out. And that's what we'll be doing with the Pirates. I have a custom playbook. It's mainly air raid, but it has a lot of run and shoot elements too, as that's another offense. I think June Jones with SMU made me kind of like the run and shoot, but it has elements of that in it as well. But this offense is known as the Air Assault Offense, or AAO offense, which I have revamped and redid several times. Um, and I actually had to go back and redo the whole playbook because I had accidentally saved over it one day. So that's a story that we're not going to get into, but we are going to be airing the ball out with the East Carolina Pirates. I didn't really look at their roster or anything. Like I said, I just went straight to the team and picked them. Decided they would run the passing offense for me, as I knew, from right away they weren't going to be fit to run the triple shoot. Um, so I do have a quarterback, Garcia, who I think is solid enough to run this offense. Just kind of getting into the styles here and like the players and things like that I want for these systems. As you are going to start seeing, I'm going into practice with East Carolina here, so we'll touch on them first. So the offensive line, I prefer, balanced offensive linemen because we do run the ball a lot more than someone would think. So we have to be able to hold up our blocks on the run. And if I just went with straight pass protectors, you know, as I've seen in the past, we're not going to hold up on run plays that well. So I do prefer like balanced, agile linemen. But, if I had to have a second preference, it is going to be pass protection over, run blocking every single time. However, one thing I'll note right now is when you're rebuilding one-star teams, you're going to take what you can get. So if there's a three-star lineman out there that's a run blocker, I'm going to recruit him anyway because three stars are coming a dime a dozen here, or they're not coming, I should say, as frequently. They're rare. So not having the opportunity to recruit these guys early on, I am going to recruit whomever wants to come. But I'm just going over my preferences here. At the quarterback spot, this offense actually can be ran by any type of quarterback, and that's what I love. I prefer a balanced quarterback, one that can move, one that can run a little bit of options, some QB draws, a little bit of stuff like that. But he doesn't have to be, a world beater at athlete. He doesn't have to be a guy, with 90 plus speed or anything like that. But, if I can get a guy with like high 70 speed, that can move a little bit, but then has really good accuracy, 87 deep accuracy, maybe 90 play actions, stuff like that. And I do prefer a strong arm for sure, like 90 plus on the arm. If you don't have that, you're not going to do that hot in this offense because we throw the ball down the field and we throw the ball down the field often. So, um, I definitely, want a quarterback with an arm, but any quarterback can work in this system. We can make any quarterback work. Um, and then when it comes to running backs, the obvious answer is that receiving backs are what I'm looking for in this offense. And you would be correct. We are going to do a lot of screens, a lot of empty sets where the running backs are lining out wide. So, I do prefer a receiving back. But again, any running back can work, as you will start to see. It doesn't matter. My next preference would be an elusive back because they are going to do damage off in space. But I do think it's kind of fun sometimes to have a power back in this system. When I think back on somebody like LeGarrette Blount running the Oregon system back when he was in college, he is a power back. And it was fun to watch, and power backs will work in this system too. Again, a system that's friendly to any type of skilled player. Getting to receivers here. I want every type of receiver in this offense. Again, a lot of people will tell you, oh, give me speed, 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 speed. No, that's no fun to me. Give me every type of receiver. Give me the guys that run super clean and crisp routes that I can count on to get open when I need them to. Give me the big body physical receiver that when all else fails, I can throw it up to him and he can be like the next, Calvin Johnson going up and just snagging that thing. DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, just out physicaling. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. Just outmanning everybody there. And then, give me the speedsters, of course. Give me the Deshaun Jacksons. Give me the Zachariah Branches. guys that are absolutely electric with the ball in their hand. Give me those guys as well. I'll take them all. They all fit in this offense. Defensively, here with East Carolina, we are running something kind of similar to how we run our offense. We're going to keep a lot of defensive backs on the field, the polar opposite of what we'll be doing with Jackson State. So we'll be keeping a lot of defensive backs. We'll be doing a lot of 3-3-5 and 3-2-6. So 5 defensive backs and 6 defensive backs on the field pretty much at all times here. So that kind of tells you what direction we're going in. With our defensive linemen, I want more like run stoppers at defensive end, pass rushers at the defensive tackle spot, linebackers. We want them to be pass coverage linebackers. Um, Safeties, I really feel like any type of safety still works. You do want your run stopping safeties because they are going to be kind of like linebackers a lot of times, but you also have to have your guys that can cover, of course. And at the cornerback position, again, with both teams, I should say, I don't really care if they're man to man or zone archetypes or slot archetypes. It doesn't really matter. We'll find a place for them because I run a lot of man and zone. So that doesn't really matter, and that goes for both sides of the ball. But again, we will take anything that wants to come here right now as, 1-star school, and we'll make it work. We'll plug you in and we'll play you. Getting into the offense of Jville State, of course, at the quarterback position, I want a runner, I want a scrambler, I want an athlete because that works the best for this team. Now, with that being said, it may happen in this dynasty at some point. It usually always does. But I will take quarterbacks that are lesser athletes that can throw a little bit better, that are decent athletes but have strong arms. I've had that happen simply because of my recruiting and what I could get to come to the schools. And we can make that work as well because remember, there's a lot of pass elements to that offense as well. But I do prefer the athletes, the athletic freaks at quarterback there if I can get them, but I'll take improvisers too if that's what I have to go with. As far as the offensive line, it's the complete polar opposite. I prefer, again, well, I wouldn't even say polar opposite because I prefer balance as well there because we throw the ball a lot more. But I will. I will definitely take run blockers. Like I'll take that, any day of the week. Uh, Run blockers for sure. And at the running back position, I'll take any type of running back. Um, Elusive backs are my favorite because they're extremely fun, but I do like to keep, a good power back along with it, kind of like a lightning and thunder type thing, especially in this offense that will run with multiple different ball carriers. It's just good to have a variation. Hit them in the mouth a lot and then turn around and shake, move, spin, move them. And believe it or not, receiving backs are working this offense as well, though you probably won't see me recruiting too many of those because most of those aren't even interested in coming to the school. And the fullback position is also back in this offense because we run a lot of flex bone and stuff like that. The fullbacks, if I can recruit the right type of fullbacks, we will have them carrying the ball, through the flex bone and stuff like that. Even though more times than not, I like to plug a running back in that fullback role in the flex bone because it just makes it so much more fun and difficult to beat. But a lot of times my fullbacks play more of a utility role. They'll be the lead blockers and a lot of these power formations, eye formations, and stuff like that. And they'll catch the ball a lot. I do like to move a lot of them to like the wide position, depending. But if I can get a fullback that's an absolute beast, he will definitely get carries and definitely make a big difference. And then at the wide receiver position, this is where it gets a little bit different. Again, any type of receiver works. Every team can use the speedster, especially because I do run a lot of slot option, motion option, and stuff like that as well. So you need to have an athlete wide receiver spot in order to be able to do those things. But in this offense, I do prefer physical big receivers simply because a lot of the quarterbacks aren't going to be as accurate. And we're going to have to kind of just try to put the ball up and stuff like that. So I do like guys that can just kind of um, box out, get in position, and beat the cornerback that way, and has like bigger catch radiuses and stuff like that. But again, you know, I'll take whatever receivers want to come and play for us and make it work. And we've already spoke on the defense a little bit, but we're going to run a lot of 4 and 5 man fronts, so it's more traditional. You know, the defensive ends hand in the dirt, pass rushing. The linebackers are going to be, stuffing the run, and the cornerbacks are in safeties are going to be in coverage. So, it's just more traditional there as far as the defense is concerned. But with that being said, that concludes what I wanted to talk about today here. Just an episode here, not really an episode, just a breakdown of what to expect. You can expect the first episode here in a couple of days of me with my actual commentary and stuff like that on the games. That's another thing. I will be commentating on the games. Hopefully, you guys like the way I do that. And if you like what you see here, please tune in, give a like, give a subscribe. If you want to, any comments or feedback will be awesome. But I will see you guys soon, and I'm excited to get this thing going. Thank you.